I want to be talking about three hypothetical price scenarios that I have on my mind when it comes to Velo in an event where maybe, let's say, there is maybe even a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle. However, only time will tell, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, I do want to explore maybe hypothetically 15 cents, which is a 10x from here when it comes to Velo, and market cap at that point, if we were to, let's say, consider the current circulating supply, would be around 2.6 billion. The reason why that wouldn't necessarily surprise me is because when I take a look at, for instance, Velo's fundamentals is something I'm a fan of. Velo is a blockchain-enabled financial system and decentralized settlement network that is designed to make the transfer of value between one country to another more efficient. So I find that pretty interesting. Now, if I want to put it in simple terms, arguably I would say that Velo is focused on cost-effective cross-border payments and remittances. Now, when it comes to payments, it's already something that a lot of other projects do focus on. Like, for instance, the payments market is currently valued at over 2 trillion. So then that is already something that is, again, pretty kind of popular. But then when it comes to remittances, here's where I think things get a little bit more interesting because a lot of other projects out there, they're not really focused on that. Now, let me give an example as to what remittances, let's say, for instance, right? Let's say I'm from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I'm working in, let's say, Tokyo, Japan. And let's say when I'm working in Tokyo and I'm working there, let's say, right? And then I'm sending, let's say, money back home to, let's say, again, Rio de Janeiro. Now, when I'm doing that, that's considered remittance. However, we also have to kind of consider how sometimes, again, people may think, oh, it's not a market that other projects focused on. Why would anyone really care about it in the grand scheme of things within this space? Well, it's because arguably, when I take a look at, according to Grandview Research, the global digital remittance market is expected to reach over $60 billion by 2030. So I find that very impressive. Now, besides that point, though, Velo is also focused on something called CDFI. Now, what CDFI stands for is Centralized Decentralized Finance. Why do I think it's pretty cool? It's kind of basically combining some aspects of centralized finance with some aspects of decentralized finance and sort of creating, I would arguably say, kind of like a hybrid if I were to put an analogy on it. Because again, sometimes, it's either just centralized finance or decentralized finance in a lot of cases I see, but this one is kind of like a combination, so I find that again pretty interesting. However, even besides all that, we have to take a look at Velo's stablecoin called USDV, which some people complain about, and I understand, there is a lot of stablecoins out there, so kind of the argument is, why would we need another one? However, I also have to take a look at the accomplishments of USDV. Quite a while ago, not really that long ago, but again, quite a while ago, I saw Velo's involvement with BlackRock, and again, BlackRock is very popular, right? And more specifically with BlackRock's tokenized short-term treasury fund into their USDV stablecoin. So that's pretty interesting to me. Overall, when I take a look at something like Velo, I like the fundamentals, I like the market it's focused on, and let's say hypothetically, when it comes to the idea of maybe 15 cents, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me in an event where, let's say, there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season. But even besides that point, when I take a look at the next scenario, which I do want to explore, 17 cents. Now that's around an 11.3x from here. Market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be nearly 3 billion. Not such a massively, kind of outlandish amount to me at least. This is just my perspective, but when I saw something like Dogecoin reach over $80 billion in market cap back in 2021, this isn't necessarily something that would surprise me too much, but only time will tell. Now, the final hypothetical price scenario that I do maybe want to explore is, let's say, the idea of 20 cents, which is around a 13.3x from here. Market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be around 3.5 billion. Now, why wouldn't it necessarily surprise me? It's because I have to take a look at, for instance, the factors right now. Like, in the peak of the 2021 bull run, right? I get it. The altcoin season, hypothetically at that time, looked very amazing. But then there was around 300 million crypto owners, and that was like during the peak. Now we fast forward to currently, right? Supposedly there's over 600 million crypto owners. Not only is that basically double when compared to back then, but that's supposedly more than ever before in history, which I find very fascinating because we haven't seen like Ethereum at 10 grand, right? We haven't seen Bitcoin at like, 200, 250 or 300 grand or something like that. And we already have that much already. And then I kind of combine that with the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF. if let's say during the cycle, and again, the keyword is if, right? If let's say there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle, if it looked better than back in 2021, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me, but this is just my mindset. Just due to those factors, again, like, the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, and also kind of the increased amount of crypto owners, when compared to back then, allegedly. So this is just kind of what I have on my mind, but even besides all that, there's only one thing I can do, and that's really just stay patient, because whenever the altcoin season hypothetically maybe decides to wake up, if it ever even does, like let's say maybe next month, or let's say maybe November or December, or even let's say, all the way up until sometime in Q1 of 2026, be it January, February, March, whatever the case may be, it's going to be beyond my control if it ever happens, right? Like I cannot control when things happen or not when it comes to this space. So for me, all I can do is just stay patient and just hold. That's it. That's the only thing I can do. And I kind of understood that coming into it anyways, because my whole strategy to begin with was just dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting for the projects that I do like. And again, my favorite projects. That was all I did, and that's all I'm doing right now, actually. And just literally staying patient. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Greatly appreciated. It's only the captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.